Hi guys, it's me Ty here, and today I'm going to give you guys a long-term review from a guru on the um, 1999 to 2002 body style of the Ford Super Duties with the 7.3 liter Powerstroke diesel. And this family member of mine, he has an old 2002 model, and he bought it in 2004 with only 60,000 miles on it, and now it's got 360,000 miles on it. And I grew up around this pickup all my life, so. Um, the first time I ever came in contact with these pickups was in April of 1998 or summer of 1998. And the weird thing about Ford at that time, for 1998, um, they did not make an F-250 or F-350s. They they claimed in their brochures and everything, they claimed that they only offered a half ton for that year, but that's not true because our family dealt with it. Like I said, we were at a family gathering in like April of 1998, and uh, one of my cousins' moms shows up in a brand new jet black F-350 of the new body style, this big Super Duties. It was a regular cab dually, and I remember that tailgate was way up. I think it was at the top of my head. I was like 14 years old or whatever, and it was just a regular cab. And I went in the house, and at that time, I was obsessed with pickups, especially big ones and all that. We're all sitting down at the dinner table, and I asked her, I was like, is when did you buy that 1998 model there? And she's like, actually, it's a 1999 model. And I was like, and her son was sitting right next to her too, because it was his kids gathering, and he's like, "What? How can it be like that?" And he's like, "We're still in 1998. How can it be in 1999?" She's like, "Well, that's just what the salesman told me. There's like some stuff going on, weird stuff with Ford, and it's a 1999 model." We're like, me and her son were just like, "Yeah, but it's 1998 right now." So so they were offering these new buy style Super Duties right at the beginning of 1998, and like I said, when you're looking at buying them, they're going to be labeled 1999 through 2003, but they were actually produced in 1998, 1999, 2000, 2001, and 2002. 2003 was actually the year of the troublesome 6.4, 6.0 liter that blew up at like 80,000 miles. The turbos went out at 40,000 miles because we dealt with those too. And then and then later on, the 6.4 liter Powerstroke diesels came out, and they were even worse than the 6 liters. So if you see one labeled a 2003, my buddy the guru here, he said that they made they were all they were was carryovers from the 2002 year. It was only like 2 months of 2003 that they had those trying to get them off the lot is what it was. So, Kate and by the way, my family member's mom still owns that 1998 Ford Super Duty here. So, uh, Kate and yeah, so my buddy here, he knows everything about these, and he said that where he got most of his info. Like I remember growing up, we didn't have YouTube or anything like that, and the repair shops, they won't give you any advice or anything because knowledge is power. They didn't want you stealing their jobs or anything. And I remember as a growing up that him and like our cousins and stuff like that, they would always be bouncing off. He was older than me. They would always be bouncing off ideas. He's like, what's wrong with it? Because I do remember growing up that he would always try and troubleshoot himself. So he obviously did have problems, things that broke on it over the years. Um, and like I said, it's a 2002. He bought it in 2004 when it was only 2 years old, and it had 60,000 miles on it. It had a stick shift in it, and I just rode with him like 2 years ago in it, and I think it's a 6 speed, but don't quote me on that. But I all I know is it's a stick shift in there, and I remember we were driving around in some hills and kind of off road, and um, he asked me to hop out and turn the hubs in because we had to crawl up a really big hill, and and he's like, yeah, he's like, sorry for asking to do that. He's like, the like vacuum pump or vacuum booster is out on it. And he's like, I just don't want to spend the money to buy a new one or whatever. So he's like, um, just whenever I need to use 4-wheel drive, I have to get out like the old school 1970s Fords and everything where you had to turn the hub from free to lock, and then you could go inside and pull your transfer case into 4 high, and then you were in 4-wheel drive. So and he said he's always done his own repairs on it, and he also told me that he has um, a special program or whatever for it. And he said what that is. I'll get to it for you guys. I got my whole list here. Um, but okay, so when we were talking about repairs on it, he said at 208,000 miles, he rebuilt the stick shift transmission on it. At 215,000 miles, he put new injectors in it because the injectors were still good, but he said that he could tell that they were getting old and ready to be replaced or whatever. But he said what the problem was is there's three O-rings on the top part of the injector body, and these injectors are huge on these pickups here. And he said that he had a cut O-ring. I guess the high pressure and everything must eventually cut through those O-rings, and he couldn't tell which O-ring was cut. But it was letting diesel fuel and diesel fuel or engine oil into his coolant system. He opened up his radiator cap and it was black, and, and you could see black oil or diesel fuel sitting on top of the coolant um, in the reservoir. He said it still has the original injector cups because I don't know, the diesel repair shop videos I always watch, they're always like, and he's yeah, they said that injector cups can go bad on these or whatever, and it the injector sits inside of them, and those injector cups they have coolant on one side and the injector on the other side. So the coolant is cooling them or whatever, and they can develop a crack in them. And they said how you tell is you'll see engine oil or diesel fuel in your coolant reservoir. And my my family member, the guru, he's like, man, he's like, that doesn't make sense to me. He's like, I would think that's the cut O-ring instead, but I guess whatever. Um, and he put on a new Huey injection pump at 250,000 miles on it. Um, like I said, the vacuum booster went bad on it, so he has to get out and lock the hubs in each time he wants to use 4x4. He did replace the two sensors, one on each side of the fuel filter in the center of the engine. And on all the other, on all the repair videos I've watched on the 7.3 diesels, they talk about those. Um, and I don't know the exact name. It's called, each of those sensors is called like an ICP or something. Injector is part of one of them. It tells the injectors when to fire and everything. And I know the one on the driver's side of the fuel filter, that one, how you tell that one's bad, they said, is you just undo the electrical connector from it, and you'll see engine oil inside of there. That means that's bad. And one of those sensors, um, my family member said, he said with one of those sensors, when it goes bad, you'll have hard starting. It'll crank, crank, crank before it wants to fire up. But then the other one, you do not have hard starting. Um, uh, Injectors control is what they do, and one causes hard starting, the other does not. So yeah, they both have, I think in their names is injectors. So they control stuff that has to do with injectors. Um, oh, and he rebuilt the rear differential 2 times and the rear axle seal. And he said what happened is the the rear differential must have gone out on it. So he rebuilt that himself, and then 6 months later, the rear axle seal went out, so it must have leaked out all the 80-90 oil out of the rear end and caused the rear diff to go out on it. So he has rebuilt both of the 4x4 front hubs on it. I believe he said that he did put a new steering gearbox on it, and that sounds like that's pretty darn common on these Powerstrokes here from all the videos I've watched. Um, oh, and yeah, he told me that he has a special scan tool or whatever for repairing. It's made for these 7.3 diesels. Um, and I asked him, I was like, "What's the name and model of it?" But all that he texted me back on is he said he has um, yeah, he has a scan program on his laptop computer, and uh, obviously it must be have like an adapter that hooks up to your HDMI cable inside of your laptop and then plugs in your OBD2 sensor or whatever. and he said it can do all buzz from the buzz test to directional data, where you can control, turning the coolant fan, all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm assuming he either downloaded it off the internet, and he doesn't seem like the type of person that would buy subscriptions. So he either downloaded off the internet or else he went online and bought a CD and then just downloaded it on there. And from working with heavy equipment, from what I've noticed, you guys dealing with like the Caterpillar Global out there, heavy equipment, that they don't have special little scan tools that you buy like for cars and pickups and everything. Like your service techs will have like 4 laptops, just because those laptops obviously can't hold enough of the programming. You got a program on there that you downloaded for scrapers, another one for payloaders, another one for dozers, another one for the excavators. But yeah, that's it. Once you're dealing with the diesel industry, they're all using the laptops rather than so that must be the way to go then. Um, okay, and he said that he loves that pickup because it is the last Ford model before emissions started. Because after that, then the 6 liters came out, and they claimed that one of the reasons that the 6 liters were such a terrible engine was the emissions caused the engines to blow up and lock up for no reason. So um, he said it's probably the most common diesel model, uh, because they were popular in two-wheel drive on bucket trucks and ambulances and hotshot services all around the United States. He's like, because really, you didn't see Duramaxes of that era out there on the road. And I noticed that, like growing up, I would see people with big Super Duties pulling campers, but I didn't see that many Duramaxes. And at that time, uh, they they all three had really good pickups like this at that time, pre-emissions. Over those years in the early 2000s, they had the 7.3 Powerstroke diesel Ford had. Uh, um, uh, Duramax, yeah, 2001 to 2006, Chevy was making that 6.6 liter Duramax, and those things are amazing. The transmissions last forever. And then the 5.9 liter Cummins was made from 2003 to 2007, and those things last forever. So, and I have them. I loved it, and could pull anything. He said that you only buy OEM brand name parts for it, like injectors and injection pumps. They just have such high tolerances on them. And I can attest to that. My buddy with his Duramax with 400,000 that he bought just about brand new of the old Duramaxes like that, pre-emissions. Um, uh, he bought the factory ones from at the GM dealer, $2,400, installed himself. Then to save some money, the next 150,000, he went and he bought some Bosch ones from the diesel repair shop, and those were like $1,800. And then the last 150,000 now or whatever, he said they're starting to go. It's cranking really hard and getting harder to start. But he saw some on Amazon, some Chinese ones for $800. But he's like, I'm too afraid to do it. I'll just stick with like Bosch, from a diesel shop. He said the parts availability is good, except for the radio. You cannot buy a replacement radio for those pickups. But I mean, all of us that grew up in the 80s and stuff where we didn't have air conditioning in our vehicles and stuff like that, um, we just carried a boom box, and that's how we dealt with it. And I'm still willing to do that. I guess maybe people use their phones now. I don't know. Yeah, and you just talked about in like the first couple months of 2003, they just had some carryovers of these 7.3 diesels here. So when you're shopping, look for the title 1998 to 2002. 2003, be very careful that that owner isn't trying to trick you saying, oh yeah, it's got a 7.3 in it when really it's got the troublesome 6 liter. So, um, yeah, and then like I said, to stay away from 6.4 liters that came after 6.3, 6 liter, because they were bad engines too in these. He did use his as a car because growing up, when he moved across the country, and but he said that most of its life has been hooked to a heavy hauler trailer. So this thing's had to work out. Like I said, it's got 360,000 on it. It's still going. And he said they do break down quite a bit when you get high mileage. Stuff does break down. He's like, I know everybody rats on the 7.3s, and he's like they got a cult following. People do love him, but he's like you always hear about him breaking down, and I remember his breaking down all the time and everything. But he's like it's because there were so many on the road and so have such high miles on them. I mean, I've heard of guys having 725,000 miles on them, whereas you don't hear about the Duramaxes and the Cummins of that era having that many miles on them. Yep, he said he will never sell that pickup. He bought himself one of the a brand new 2011 to right now they have that new body style 6.7 liter F450, and he's like I bought that as a backup. So he's like if the engine ever blows up on it or whatever. So um, and he's like it's getting really tough to find engines. So if you guys can find an engine for this, um, you guys might want to buy it, like especially a cheap one, just to keep on your back shelf for when yours goes down. And especially when you're dealing with, if you can get a good running engine that has the injection pump and injectors. I mean, you're looking at $2,000 for probably an injection pump, and like I said, the injectors are $1,600. So if you can take them off that junkyard engine that you heard run or whatever, so and then also for storing those injection pumps and injectors, what I noticed with me with my buying and selling tractors over the years, going all over the United States, especially when a tractor was sitting for like 20 years, it seemed like the injection pumps were always bad on them. And so I Googled what you're supposed to do, and they said if you're going to store them for that long, what causes that is all of your diesel fuel inside your injection pump and the lines, it goes ahead and evaporates out of there and it leaves varnish, and then it starts and also rust. It'll start pitting all those smoothly machined surfaces, and then of course all the O-rings and seals go out. So if you're the guy that thinks you're gonna spend $50 on uh, to reseal to rebuild an injection pump in your house or whatever, that's not going to work. You might be replacing the seals, but all that rust will pit at those machine surfaces, and that thing's not going to work right. Spend the $2,000 and send it to a diesel repair shop. He did say, like his diesel stuff, I know the injectors and the injection pump, he went through a place in Pennsylvania and another one in Colorado. Um, and he said with the injection pump that he could have sent it to them, but it was his only pickup and he needed it for hauling. So he's like, you guys just send me one that you guys already have rebuilt, and then use mine as the core to rebuild another one. And um, I guess that's the way it all used to always be or whatever. But he told me that he ended up having to pay twice as much money, uh, um, because it can be 2 to 8 months for them to rebuild your injectors and rebuild your injection pump. So I do think that's very stupid that because you would think they have lots of rebuilt ones in their free time sitting on the shelf, and then they just mail you one and they would rebuild yours. But nope, that's not how they work. They're like, nope, you have to wait on just your injection pump to rebuild, just your fuel injectors. So um, uh, he said this system that the Ford 7.3 Powerstrokes had at that time was more complicated than the Duramaxes and the Cummins of that time, 5.9 liter Cummins, because they had the Huey system, and it was like high pressure or whatever. And what made the Huey system so complicated was it used high pressure engine oil. You used your engine oil to fire off the injectors. And all the diesel repair shop videos, they said that was just one more thing to go wrong on these pickups of troubleshooting them or whatever. But my family member, the guru, said that he likes the Huey system because it saves that engine from blowing up. He's like, if you have low if you're running it with low engine oil, if you never check the engine oil or whatever, he's like, this pickup it won't start. It'll either start up and then it'll just shut right off because it needs the engine oil pressure to fire the injector. So you won't be getting any fuel to the engine. It's gonna shut off and it's gonna save the engine from being destroyed. So he loves it. And he said that what he learned all of his stuff from was that YouTube diesel guy that passed away a few years ago or whatever. And I don't know his name. The only time I've ever really heard of him was from Stephen Cox YouTube channel. That's how he learned so much about the 7.3 Powerstrokes, was watching that guy. And he said he still watches those, even though the guy passed away. His wife still leaves the videos up for extra revenue. So um, yeah, that's about it on these here, you guys. So, that's my experience with them. And like me, I search all over the United States online, and I just saw one here that's in a van, and they want $1,000 for it. Sounds it. They said the 2001 Powerstroke van. It runs great, but it could use injector cups. But the guy didn't say what symptoms it has, and they said um, I just figured that it was according to the diesel repair shops and Google. It says that it's usually engine oil and diesel fuel inside of your coolant system, but my family member, the guru, doesn't believe it. He thinks it needs all three new O-rings on all of your injectors, and I do not know how much that costs. But he said those O-rings, he does not buy them from China either. When he needed his, I think that he did get his from like Pennsylvania, is where he ordered his. So if you guys like this content, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll just keep kicking out these money saving videos and repair videos, and just living here in Cambodia, just how to save money in Asia. And yeah, all right, take care, you guys. Bye.